Lutnick says government spending could be separated from gross domestic product reports in response to questions about whether the spending cuts pushed by Elon Musk could possibly cause an economic downturn. This is AP News. There is a crackdown on scams in Myanmar.
More than 7,000 people from across the world have been held in Mayawadi in Myanmar as they await a return home. 84 Indonesians freed from the scam centres arrived in Indonesia's capital, Jakarta, late Friday. Aid worker Amy Miller, who's based in the Thai town Mai Sot, believes the Thai authorities are doing the best they can, but the sheer number of the workers has been overwhelming.
We're looking at numbers in the thousands. The ability to get them over to Thailand and process them and house them and feed them would be impossible for most governments.
The 7,000 are just a small part of the hundreds of thousands of people from across Southeast Asia working to commit scams through false romances, bogus investment pitches and illegal...
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Few scattered areas of rain and sleet mixing here earlier today. Otherwise, we'll see a blend of clouds and sunshine developing, high around 50 degrees. Winds out of the south at 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. For tonight, a chance for some rain showers late, cloudy, a low near 40. By Tuesday, a chance for rain, cloudy, high around 50. And Wednesday, a chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, high around 50. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 34.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Monday morning, progressives, and welcome to the March 3rd. That's right. We said it, March 3rd, Devin, 2025 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278. Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. Check us out there. And email me, of course, at richard@WCPT820.com. You can also catch me on Substack. I'll be dropping a lot to write about this week, so I'll be dropping some stuff this week. So catch that as well. And all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. There you can get the short versions and long versions of Choose Views. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. Check out heartlandsignal.com. It's our digital platform, and it's great stuff there. Lots of great stuff to share, as we say, every day, because it's important that you do so that we can stay plugged in. We had a busy day today. We have a busy week. I'll give you the quick rundown of who's going to be with us today. Marcia Levesque, she's the head of the Juvenile Law Center. That she'll be talking with us this morning. Chief Legal Officer Mike Nellis, who you guys may remember we spoke with a couple of weeks ago, and really plugged into a lot that happens when it comes to election conversations, and more specifically, he has a pretty good thumb on the needle of what campaigns can do to win. And so we're going to be talking with Mike today, and he's going to be with us kind of off and on over the next couple of weeks, so it'll be kind of cool to chat with him to get his take on a few things. Tomorrow, Kate Lincoln Goldfinch will be with us, a name you'll remember or recognize. Kurt Mullett, Hoosier Blue 63. Kelly Hallberg on Thursday, Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics Podcast on Friday, and of course, Mayor Brandon Johnson, Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson, will be with us on Friday as well. So just some of the highlights of folks that will be hanging with us throughout the course of the week, and there'll be others that will be popping in as well. So looking forward to those conversations. Lots to talk about, and I'm going to get to Choose Views. I'll get to Choose Views news in a minute. I'm going to just dive right in on some things. We will talk about certainly what happened this weekend, and I know that Mike Nellis and I will talk about that in the 7:30 hour this morning, and I will talk about it myself. And what I will say, guys, right out of the gate is this. Stop. The blame doesn't work. And what I mean by that is there are folks out there that want to blame Vice President Harris and Joe Biden for this, and that they should have done better. They should have messaged better, and all these things. Messaging was bad. Okay. And I'm going to draw a line in the sand, a hard one on that. And last week, we had various guests on, and Representative Benton was on. He talked about the Bernie bros and what they didn't get in the election and what they voted for Trump, and different comments. I've seen all kinds of things on social media this week, and here's what I have to say. You cannot blame Democrats when the information, at some point, Devin, I think you have to take responsibility. We all do. If I run a stop sign, or if I blow through a red light, or if I turn on a non-turn, whatever, what I'm trying to say. If I get a speeding ticket, I can't blame the car. Devin, I can't blame because I was talking to you and I missed the light. It was right. My point is, for those people who want to try to blame the Democrats for not having good enough messaging or strong enough messaging, that story is over with. That story is way over with. I'm tired of hearing people blame Democrats for not having the right messaging, good enough messaging. Didn't talk to the white suburban union worker guys. Didn't talk to the rural white workers. Didn't talk to young black men and young white men. And I'm sick and tired of hearing that. I just am. And I'm going to have a difficult time trying to bend myself into a pretzel to give space to the conversation around the Dems messaging just wasn't good enough. Didn't talk to the Vice President Harris, talked to everybody that was paying attention. If you didn't get the message, you weren't paying attention, or you just didn't want to get the damn message. It's that simple. So I'm done giving space and comfort as best I possibly can. I know I'm not going to be perfect in this space, but I'm done with this. The messaging just wasn't right. Because I went back this weekend and watched part of the debate that they had. And debates have a purpose. It's to kind of bring together the candidates so that they can talk about as many issues as the moderator will set up for them to talk about. And we know that a lot of it's staged. We know a lot of it had some craziness to it this year or this election cycle because of what Trump's demands were. We get all of that. However, I watched parts of the debate where Vice President Harris specifically said that Vladimir Putin is going to eat your lunch. She said it. And I went through some other things about what people said that she didn't talk about, she didn't say, she didn't do. And in every case, she talked about it. She presented it. And at the convention, she spoke to it. So after watching the travesty that took place last Friday, and watching all of the Republicans bend themselves into pretzels to defend that garbage, I want you to stop blaming the Democrats for bad messaging and just ask yourself, did you do enough work to get people that you know to pay attention in the last year prior to President Biden stepping out of the election? We'll go back to January of the State of the Union, since we're coming up on that. We'll go back to the State of the Union last year. Did you pay attention and see where we were headed and just put your head in the damn sand when Vice President Harris became the candidate, and even prior to that with Joe Biden struggling in that first debate, I remember that following week, I came out hard and said, I'm in his corner, because we fall, as a song by the gospel singer Donnie McClurkin, we fall down, but we get back up again. In fact, I know Devin even played part of it for us on that Monday morning. I remember it vividly, because I said, we all make mistakes, or we all have bad days. And who is it of us to say that a bad day is a depiction of who we are in large part? So my point is, I've been begging folks, many of us in the progressive conversation have been begged folks all of last year that this was going to be horrible and carnage if this dude got back in the White House. And on the world stage, we were going to look like cow manure. And at home, we were going to have all these issues. And every single thing that so many voices, and I'm not taking credit for anything, I'm just saying every single thing that all the voices that we all came together, it was out there. So if there's a person or persons or groups that are saying, he or she didn't talk to me enough, they didn't give me an opportunity, they didn't spoon feed me some pablum, I'm done with that garbage. Because if you're talk about elite, I'm going to blame the elites, the elite Democrats. Talk about an elitist conversation. They didn't talk to me enough. They didn't come to me enough. They didn't message me enough. If that's elite, that's elitism. I'm special. You shouldn't come to me and give me what I want. Give me that spoon, that nice warm, bowl of, excuse my language, that nice bowl of oatmeal with the honey on it, and the oats are cooked just the right way. If you wanted that, and you didn't see all the other things that were going on from so many people telling you, and even when someone like me says the mainstream media dropped the ball repeatedly, and they, irrespective of the conversations that were being had about Trump's ineffectiveness, and not even talking about the convictions and the crimes. If you still needed somebody to come to your doorstep and kiss your ring to say, we're going to make it just right for the unions, we're going to make it just right for the suburban communities, we're going to make it just right for the black men that weren't going to vote for a woman, or the Hispanic men, or the white women. If you needed somebody to come to your doorstep and feed you the nice warm bowl of oatmeal as your way of justifying that you might consider voting for either Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, that is the most elite thing that one could talk about. And you need to be called on it, because those of you that decided to vote for Donald Trump, irrespective of your demographic group, that were so selfish that you couldn't see that what happened last Friday to one of our partners, you couldn't hear that people who were trying to help you not trying desperately to get you to understand that this is where we were headed, that's on you. It is not on the Democrats to have brought you a better message, a warmer bowl of oatmeal with a little bit better brewed honey, and your properly brewed cup of tea or coffee or whatever your drink is, or perfectly chilled glass of orange juice. That is on every single person that was so arrogant and so elitist as to not stop and say, wait a minute. It's actually on you that you're the elite ones. You're the elitist acting ones, not the people that are educated, that are trying to inform the general public and trying to raise the educational standard. All right, I blew through this first break, but we're going to stay on this topic. Trust me, I have a few other things to talk about. All right, 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views. Good Monday morning. We'll be right back.
Moment in labor. In the 1830s in Lowell, Massachusetts, during the rise of the textile industry, factories were hiring large groups of women ranging in ages 18 to 35 to work at their mills. The workdays were 13 hours long and had poor working conditions. By 1834, the textile market was sluggish. In response, the workers' wages were reduced by 12.5%. One of the workers, Julia Wilson, tried to organize the women to get their wages back, only to be terminated abruptly. Wilson signaled the women to strike or turn out. Over 800 women marched and signed a petition saying we will not go back into the mills to work unless our wages are continued. Ultimately, the strike failed, but they learned from their mistake and successfully battled back a rent increase on their boarding houses 2 years later. By January 1845, about a dozen of the Lowell female textile workers came together to form the Lowell Female Labor Reform Association. This would become the first organized union of women workers in American history. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We're working for your rights.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Good morning. You're waking up with Richard Chew.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
We're live and ready to hear from you. Text or call us now at 773-763-9278. Same number. Simple as that. Let's get the conversation going on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. The texts and calls are already flying in, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to inspire you guys to call and to text me this morning. I am very frustrated with the fact that we didn't kiss people's feet well enough. The information was out there. It was clearly in front of folks. It was clearly in front. And I still come back to, if the information was in front of everybody, and I haven't talked about this in a while to this level, if we're in front of you, other than just blaming, because you didn't get the bowl of oatmeal the way you wanted it, it has to do with the fact that you wanted to see this disaster in front of us. It has to be that you just felt so arrogantly powerful that you were going to be like, you know what? I don't care. I want Donald. All right. You guys know where I stand on this. And like I said, I know we'll come back to it. I've got a couple of things to share with you. And I have a question that I would like to ask. A couple of questions I want to ask you guys. The first question is, if you have questions for Mayor Johnson from my Friday interview with the mayor, please send them to me. Send them as an email. Don't send them as a text. Because if you send them as a text, I may not be able to get to them as efficiently. So email me, Richard at WCPT820.com, your questions that you potentially have for for Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson. He's going to be at Congress on Wednesday this week, and I'll talk about that hopefully in a little bit. But email me any questions you have. Anything's fair. I won't be offended. I'll do my best to go through and see which ones I can try to get in. But email me, and I'll try to present that to the mayor. It doesn't matter if you're in Chicago or not. You may have a question about Democratic leadership. It has nothing to do with what the mayor is specifically doing in Chicago. But if you have a question, send it to me, and I will work to put that to the mayor. So that's one thing I wanted to ask you guys to do today. Second question is this. Over the weekend, I saw some commentary, Devin, where people were saying that the Dems shouldn't go to the speech tomorrow. And I don't know where I sit on it just yet. I can weigh both of those in terms of they shouldn't go. So here's some of the things that I heard. I guess I'll create my own thoughts on it. Should the Dems go or should they not go? Okay. I don't know where I land. Do I think they should go? Some say yes, some say no. Here's some thought process on it rather than the final, what Richard has to say about it. Maybe they shouldn't go. Maybe they should stand in unison and say, we're not going to show up for that. Or maybe they should go and they should get up and leave one by one. Or maybe they should go and every time he tells a lie or makes some statement that's BS, they should all stand up and boo him. I don't know the answer. I really don't. And if I were advising them and they were asking me, Richard, we need you to make the decision for us or tell us what you think should happen, there's a part of me that says do not yield the space. So I would say that we go as a united front and we all go strong, but we make it uncomfortable as hell for them. Because when you yield the space, then it gives them the opportunity to say, yeah, see, the Dems couldn't even show up. They don't show up for the country. That kind of narrative, Devin, that's my concern about them not being there, is that he'll use it as an opportunity to say that the Dems leave you. They don't show up. They're never here for you. So I would say my instincts tell me be there and make a bunch of noise. Let the American people know, because that's what that I believe, and you guys correct me or comment on this if you will. I believe the American people want to see people fight. I want to see Dems fight specifically. So by showing up, it's a sign of fighting. It's a sign of saying we're not yielding the space. Because I could see Trump doing something as crazy as telling the Republicans to go to sit in seats all over the place. So don't yield space, Dems. Please show. I guess if you again, I tried to put this in the phrase of if the Democratic Party were asking me, they're not. I would say show up en masse and strong. Everybody in blue. And if anything, bring some signs. See, I made Devin laugh. Bring some signs that say you lie, or something that is or something, maybe something that's positive, like we stand for the American people. That's too many words. We stand united. We stand united. Yeah, something like that. And have those as signs or placards that they can hold up, and all night that's what they show. We stand united. Because I think that the country needs to see that, but certainly Democratic voters need to see that. They need to see the fight. So I'd like to hear from you guys in terms of what you think the Democratic leadership should do. And that's what I would recommend to them doing if they were to ask little old Richard Chew, what's your thoughts, dude? What do you think we should do? So there you go. Now, I want to tell you guys a little bit of something, share a story with you. So last Friday was Blackout Friday, Economic Blackout Friday. And lots of people participated throughout the country. From what I heard, people from throughout the world were participating. So here's what happened. So my wife and I had plans to go to Washington, D.C., and we did. We followed the rules as best we could. We didn't spend. We took our own little snack bags, so we didn't have to buy anything, Dev, at the stores. We did our very, very best. We flew into National Airport. I don't call it the other dude's name. We flew in there, and we did not rent a rental car. We used public transportation as best we could. We walked a lot. We went to, and this is the Friday. Of course, we get there Friday evening. We went to Black-owned businesses for where we did spend money. We went to Black-owned businesses, and we used cash. And it was a great time. We went to a place, and I guess I'll just say the name. We went to Ben's next door and Ben's Chili. They're right next to each other in D.C. Great places, Black-owned. Got to meet the owner. Her name's Virginia. She's 91 years old. Still there. Still came by our table and took our little baskets off the table. 91 years old. She said, I hate to see dirty dishes, and I hate to see them from my customers. Inspiring as hell to see her. Then over the course of the weekend, as best we could, we patroned Black businesses on Saturday and on Sunday. So why am I telling you this story? Is because we followed the rules as best we could. We patronized Black-owned businesses. And we made certain to see some of Washington, D.C.'s history, monuments, history, other places. And here's what I want to share with you guys. This is the thing that went through my mind, and I knew I would share this with you. And I guess this is part of the reason why I want the Dems to show up tomorrow night en masse, strong, with signs. We went to the Library of Congress, and there was a moment. My wife was taking pictures, and I was just looking around. I hadn't been to the Library of Congress since I was probably 15, and I've been to D.C. literally hundreds of times in the last, 30, 40 years of my life. But what happened was, I had a moment, little epiphany moment, I guess you could call it that. And I want to share this with you guys to hopefully empower you about where we are. We cannot yield space. We cannot give up territory. We cannot give up our place in the world. We don't have the luxury to do that. Be damn who's in the White House. And so while I was standing there watching my wife take pictures in the rotunda area of the Library of Congress, I said, I'm going to share this with you guys all over the country. Find a way to get yourself to Washington, D.C. Sit down, figure it out in your budget, whatever you got to do. Do the economic way. I'm not trying to spend anybody's money. I'm just saying, as your guy here in Chicago and Choose Views host, go to Washington, D.C. The District of Columbia is run by progressives and run fairly well. Like any big city, it's got all of its problems. Just like any community has its issues. But the reason I'm going to encourage you to go is because I want you to recognize that our country is our country. Our monuments are our monuments. Our history, good, bad, and in the middle, is our history. Do not let this, what Christy Teigen referred to Donald Trump as, that is now part of the congressional record, you can look it up. Do not let this PAB take away your joy from going to one of the most beautiful cities in the country, if not the world, and one of the most historically relevant places on the planet. Do not let this guy and his minion detract and take away from your ability to go and appreciate what our nation, what we have all been a part of building. All of us immigrants, all of us descendants of enslaved people, all of us, the rest of us. Do not let this punk take you away from that. I beg you to do that, because Washington, D.C. is a beautiful place. It's a historic part of who we are and where we are. Do not let him do that. Had a great time, Devin. It was great seeing the monuments, and we just really enjoyed, and we hadn't been there since right before COVID. We went to the Cherry Blossom Festival with my sister and brother-in-law. And just by virtue of things, we hadn't been there. And I said I'm standing in the rotunda while my wife is taking pictures. And I said, you know what? I have to let the listeners, the viewers know, do not let them take away this beautiful part of who we are as a nation just because they're the ones that are, quote unquote, in power. Do not let them detract you from saying, I want to go to the nation's capital. And if anything, now's the time to do it. Now's the time to make the statement. And yeah, you're going to run across some of these punks walking around with their MAGA hats on and their Trump Vance hats on. Who gives a darn? They're just wearing a symbol they're wearing a target on their heads, to be honest with you. But what I want you guys to do is embrace the fact that this is our nation. They don't get to say that they're the patriots. They don't get to say that we're the ones. No, we all are, but we particularly as progressive liberal Democrats are. And I'll be doggone if I'm going to let this, you-know-what, who disgusted himself and our nation, both he and Vance, on Friday, take away the beauty of the District of Columbia, our nation's capital. So find it some way, somehow, for you to get yourself to D.C. Do the economic route. I'm not trying to spend anybody's money, like I said, but go there to help maybe get a little bit of re-inspiration about who we are as a nation. Imperfect as we are, I highly recommend you do it now. Just me. All right, guys, let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. Yeah, it's Choose Views, guys. We'll be right back.
Wow, it's you, the Capital One Bank guy.
That's what they call me.
Mind if I get a selfie?
Yeah, sure thing. Say no fees or minimums on your Capital One checking account.
Wow, that's a keeper. So, where are you heading?
I'm off to spread the good news that Capital One helps people keep more money in their wallet with no overdraft fees.
Oh, you're the best Capital One Bank guy.
Hey, mind if I get a selfie?
Sure.
Say, Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Few scattered areas of rain and sleet mixing here earlier today. Otherwise, we'll see a blend of clouds and sunshine developing, a high around 50 degrees. Winds out of the south at 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. For tonight, a chance for some rain showers late, cloudy, a low near 40. By Tuesday, a chance for rain, cloudy, high around 50. And Wednesday, a chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, high around 50. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 34.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
It's Choose View with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Thanks for your text this morning. Let's see what we had. They were saying, we had some people text to say chant things like traitor, liar, Putin's prostitute. I won't say the other word. Thank you. You know which one I'm talking about. I won't say that, kids. I'm not going to say that word. This is, yes, good points. Good points. I read the text and I can't read them as my brain is engaging what someone sent to me because I might slip up and say something on the air that I can't say or shouldn't say. Even things that I can say, I'm mindful to not say them just because of respect to you guys, which is why I do my best to not curse on the show, even with the words that we can use. So there you go. Folks, I have to say it again. Do not let these PABs take away your joy and who you are as an American. What Donald Trump did on Friday and J.D. Vance did on Friday in that meeting with President Zelensky, I don't care what anybody has to say whatsoever, period, about, well, you know, Zelensky this, Zelensky that. Look, y'all, if you're that stupid and narrow-minded to think that he invaded Russia or caused the war, caused the invasion, and or you think for a minute that he's a dictator, you need some serious, serious therapy. And you also need to pull your head out of the sand, or if not other places. That being said, there's a number of clips. You guys know it from the weekend. And I want to play a couple. One speaks to what one of our senators had to say. And then we'll get to another one that talks about the importance of us supporting Ukraine on a global scale and why it's important that we get our behinds off this, well, we can't take care of Ukraine and take care of all the rest of these things. We can walk and chew gum, y'all. So let's, Devin and I put together a clip. Let's go to the one from Senator Mark Kelly.
The best way to contain Vladimir Putin was to arm Zelensky to the teeth. Man, what a difference one blow-up in the Oval Office can make. And joining me now is Democratic Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. He's a member of the Armed Services and Intelligence Committees, and he was part of the group of bipartisan senators who met with President Zelensky on Friday. Senator Kelly, thank you so much for joining me. I think we're all reflecting on Friday and that meeting. It was like nothing I've ever seen in my time working for two presidents, watching Republicans in that Oval Office. But I wanted to start by just asking you about that meeting with Zelensky you attended by a bipartisan group. What was that like, and what was the response in the private room to him?
Well, Jen, I think we all have a little bit of PTSD, even though we weren't in the Oval Office meeting, right? I think all of us, a lot of people across the country collectively. The contrast between the two meetings was quite remarkable. With Zelensky that morning, I think there were about 10, maybe a dozen of us, Democrats and Republicans. It was very constructive. I would say one of the most interesting things about it was that at the beginning of the meeting, the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, Roger Wicker, senator from Mississippi, asked the cameras to leave. And then we got down to business. Zelensky, as he always is, this guy is habitually thankful to the American people, to the United States Congress, to the president. So it was constructive. Not a single one of us expected what happened in the Oval Office to happen. And I have to say that was a mistake. I think it was a miscalculation by the president. Bullying an ally of ours makes us look weak. And when we are weak, we are less safe. The American people should make no mistake about that. What happened in the Oval Office was a complete and utter disaster. And it puts us in a much worse situation, not only with the Russians and the Ukrainians, but with our European allies.
Need we say any more to that? Mark Kelly he's put his life on the line for the country as a military veteran, and he was in the room when this happened. How embarrassing! How absolutely embarrassing! This is the thing that popped into my head Friday afternoon when my wife and I were walking to dinner after witnessing that stupidity. There are people running around talking about Joe Biden's old and he was this and he was that, and the debate and how he didn't perform well in that debate. Came out the next day, apologized. I will do better. I'm here to fight. There are people who were blown away by that. The problem I have is, what's more embarrassing to this country? Joe Biden's performance in that debate or Donald Trump's and J.D. Vance's? Let's not let Vance off the hook here. Thank you, Devin, for reminding me of that. Which was more embarrassing to the country? Joe Biden's performance in that debate last summer or Donald Trump and J.D. Vance? You decide. I think we know the answer is pretty easy. I had a question that was sent to me, Devin, the text. Someone says, Richard, what is a PAB? So I'm going to give you a homework assignment, Jennifer. Go. This is how can I help you get there? Google Christy Teigen and Donald Trump. Just kind of Google those two together, and you'll probably get the answer on your own. I'm not going to say the words on the air, but the first one is punk. The second one is the thing you sit on. There's a 3-letter word for that. And the third, the B stands for what is commonly referred to as a female dog. Would that be fair, Devin? Right. Okay, so there you go, Jennifer. It is punk, the thing that we sit on that has a 3-letter word, or as a 3-letter word, and then what is commonly referred to as a female dog. And I'm just trying to work my way around the FCC guidelines in terms of what Devin is going to throw something at me if I were to say.
You can say those words, you just can't call someone those words. Radio's weird.
Okay, so I'm still not going to say those words. I want to have some fun with Jennifer and let her do a little bit of a homework assignment. I think you guys know what I'm trying to do. Trying to keep it clean, but Devin tightened it up for me. All right, let's grab a couple of calls. Let's go to Steve in Des Plaines. Steve, good morning and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning, Richard. Thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely.
I want to touch on a few points. For one thing, when I was watching that debacle, can you say abortion in this context?
Yes, you can. You've already said it.
That abortion that took place in our White House, stain that White House until we get those clowns out of there in 4 years or whenever. And I wanted to cry. As a veteran, as a Marine veteran, I wanted to cry. I really wanted to cry. And on Friday, I was ready to give up citizenship, quite frankly. But I mean, I've backed off that a little bit because
we got to stay and fight, Steve. We got to stay and fight, man. I know. Sorry, brother.
That's ceding the high ground. That's ceding the high ground. You can't do that. And to your thing about D.C., I was stationed outside. I think I've talked about this before on your show. I was stationed outside D.C. at Quantico back in the 70s.
Yep. You and my brother-in-law were there.
Yep. And there's a magnificent city, magnificent monuments. Back then, you could just walk in the Congress building when they were in session and walk around. You could just curious. And then when January 6th happened, I was outraged. How dare they? That's a magnificent rotunda. And those ignorant white trash, I'm sorry, I'm going to say white trash fools. White trash, stupid, ignorant people did what they did at the Capitol. And that's what we saw on Friday. It was a white trash thugging. And I tell you what, Vance is cooked. His future is done, I would say. He'll be vice president for 3 years, but I can't see his future.
Yeah.
He cooked his future.
Yeah, Steve, here's the thing. This is where I go sometimes. I'm old enough chronologically and I guess in terms of our systems of reproduction to be J.D. Vance's father. Okay.
Yeah. Me too.
You are too. You are too. And I'm telling you that if he were my son and I saw him do that, I don't care if he's vice president or not. I'm picking up the phone and reading him the riot act.
Good.
Because that was disgusting. The attack that we know what we saw. I mean, I'm trying not to repeat it because I know what's going to happen. I will breach one of the FCC guidelines.
Right.
So
you get fined.
I'm with you. You. Unfortunately, Steve, we don't have the luxury of yielding space. But I appreciate what you're saying because it did. It annoyed me so much. And the other part that got to me, and I don't know if you saw this or not. I understand when men try, or a person that's in power. So it could be a woman sometimes. I'm not trying to set any gender bias here. But when a person's in power and they start to touch you and sort of poke you a little bit, nobody was talking about that. At least I didn't see it. Let me back up. I didn't see anything in the media about how Trump was doing the Trump thing with his hands in front of President Zelensky's face, and he touched him 3 or 4 or 5 times on his left shoulder or left upper arm. That part is what got to me probably more than the words in some ways. But the combination of the words and the arrogance, and then sort of touching him. He's touching a world leader in a what would we call it, a heated conversation. That, to me, you talk about starting World War III. And I don't know if you saw that or not, Steve. Maybe I'm crazy.
Oh, no, he was a mafia boss. He was a thug. They were a thug. They thugged up on him with all their stupid macho male
and then that knucklehead that's Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend in the media asking about his damn suit. How come you're not asking President Musk about how come you walk into any event with your T-shirt and your sneakers and your little nappy-headed boy? Sorry, y'all.
Yeah. No, that thing with the suit coat was Richard, I hate to say it.
And we have to say these things, y'all. For those who are like, come on, guys, come on. No, we have to point these things out. That's part of the problem when we don't point these things out.
No, and I tell you what, and I'll admit it, in the dark corners of my mind, I was talking to a guy at the American Legion. I'm a member of the Post 208 out in Arlington Heights, and I was at the bar yesterday, and we were talking, and I don't know if you saw that they're starting to lay off people in the Social Security office in Nashville. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw it.
So their plan is starting. Their erosion plan is starting right out of the Project 2025. And I told them, I said, you know what? If they start messing with the VA pensions, and I have a VA pension. I have a Vietnam era. It's a long story. And if they start messing with that, there's some guys out there. There's some Force Recon retired guys or SEALs.
They don't play.
I'm going to say it. They're going to put a bullet in this guy's head.
They don't play.
And I hate this.
Well, so I have to drop the asterisk. Steve said it. I didn't say it. We're not advocating for it.
I'm not.
Let's be clear.
But it's unfortunate that it has to go there, though. You know what I'm saying? That thought is even there. That thought is even in my brain.
Well, let's put it this way, Steve. We shouldn't be here right now as a nation. I'm going to put it that way, so we can come back from the precipice. We shouldn't be here right now as a nation. And that's why, though, we can't yield any space. That's why I say that if the Democratic leadership were asking me what should they do tomorrow, I would say show up with signs, show up in protest. We can't yield space. So always good to hear your voice, Steve. We're coming up on a break. Listen, I hope studying in school is going well, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, we're rocking. Thanks a lot.
All right,
Thank you.
Take care. All right, let's hit a quick break, Devin, and we'll come back and get some more of your calls. The number, of course, is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Are you tired of talking to yourself? We can get you an audience on the radio. You can produce and host your own radio show on one of our 2 stations. Please call 773-792-1121. That's 773-792-1121 and ask for Mark. Limited space available.
Progressive Home Quote Explorer lets you easily compare rates, so shopping for insurance might be the easiest part of owning a home. Definitely easier than this.
Psst, honey. Honey! What? Shh! There's a salesman walking up the driveway.
Oh, no, he's got a clipboard.
What do we do?
Get down.
Down?
On the floor, you...
Shoot, did he see us? Why are you breathing so loud?
Home ownership isn't easy, but with Progressive's Home Quote Explorer, shopping for home insurance is. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Shout outs to Jennifer, shout outs to Bob, shout outs to Cassandra, shout outs to 501. Some of the names are not there, but I'm just trying to give you shout outs for you contributing this morning via text. Y'all some violent people. Some of the things that the people are saying that they wish could happen, but I respect where you're coming from, and it furthers the conversation why we cannot yield any space at all, period. Let's go real quickly to Bill in Wisconsin, Dev. Hey, Bill, good morning. Welcome to Choose Views.
Morning, Richard. A couple of things I wanted to point out here is I agree with you about the media. You know, when Biden was president, we heard about the price of eggs going up, but we heard very little about it being because of bird flu. And I heard it on public radio. I heard it on this station, but you didn't hear it in the general media. Now, all of a sudden, they're pointing out that there's bird flu going on, and the flocks have to be called. I blame the media for some of this, for a lot of it. The other thing, too, is I would advise the listeners out here that if they run across anybody who wants to stand up for what those two punks did on Friday, they need to ask them, do you really think Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea are our buddies? Because I sure don't think so.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Bill. Be safe and appreciate your contribution. So I don't want to forget this, and then we're going to grab another quick call. Shout out to the Academy of Motion Pictures and Arts, who put on a great show last night. And their memoriams and not contributions, but their dedications to people that we lost, and most recently, of course, Gene Hackman. And I was thrilled with what they did for Quincy Jones. But it was really a night to see folks coming together, and that the honor that they presented to the firefighters there that helped in the tragedies that we saw with fire. And I can't even pivot fast enough to talk about the fact that Musk, his mama, and his son are at the White House. Trump is down in Mar-a-Lago, and we have fires in South Carolina. And nobody's talking about, oh, Trump's not doing the work. He's not doing the job. All you MAGAs out there who are trolls that are listening and that are following all kinds of progressive shows, you need to step back. Where are you now? There are people in a red state that are on fire, homes that are burning up, property that's burning up. But your boy is playing golf, and your other boy is in the White House with his mama and his son. Somebody help me better understand that one. All right, let's go to Karen here in Chicago. Good morning, our good friend. What's shaking this morning?
Good morning. Yeah, and point of order, J.D. Vance was skiing.
Yeah, and J.D. Vance was skiing. Thank you for reminding us of that. Yes. And meanwhile, skiing and getting trash talked as he appropriately should. Go ahead.
It was beautiful. He got chased off of that hill. That's what resistance is right there. So if they're looking to change public opinion about our aid and support for our great ally and fellow democracy, Ukraine, I think they're sadly mistaken. The Washington Post, after that debacle, put out an op-ed over the weekend calling for Zelensky to resign.
Yeah.
I urge everybody to, if you have not already, dump your subscription to the Washington Post, download a transcript of what happened in the Oval Office, because basically what that was a planned ambush. That was a couple of liars who have been lying to the American public and their voting base for decades, bullying a man, using the Gish Gallop, doing the typical Republican tactic of yelling when somebody who English is not his first language,
Exactly.
if you go and read that transcript, you will see that all he was doing is what any of us would have done and put out the facts of the matter. He was totally respectful. He was totally within his right to defend himself against that abhorrent attack. And any Republican that watched that should be ashamed of themselves. Lindsey Graham should be ashamed of himself. John McCain, and I don't give him a lot of credit either, but John McCain is rolling in his grave.
Yeah.
Right now at what happened on Friday. And if
late President Eisenhower, late President Bush one, are probably rolling in their graves. I'm not going to put Reagan in that conversation. Gerald Ford's probably rolling in his grave, going, "This is not who we are," And then, sorry, Karen, go ahead.
Oh, no, really quick. But if their point of trying to do that is to try and shift support for Ukraine, I think they're sadly mistaken. On social media, on my Facebook, in my Facebook groups, on my page, people that I know that would never post political things, are absolutely pissed off about this. I went to the Justice for Ukraine rally in March yesterday at Water Tower, and we marched down Michigan Avenue and over to Daley Plaza. And let me tell you, there were about 2,000 strong marching yesterday in frigid temperatures just here in Chicago. And I know that was happening across the nation, across the world. Our allies are standing firm behind Zelensky. And we, the majority of Americans, 76% of us, approve of the level of support that the United States of America has been providing for them to fight against an aggressive dictator and invader, Vladimir Putin.
Yep.
So these people need to understand some things. And by the way, 81% of people in this country do not trust Vladimir Putin. And meanwhile, we have a convicted felon and a couch effer sitting there acting like strongmen. They're not. They are weak. They are worthless. And we have to resist this, and we have to defeat them.
All they did on Friday, you guys, is this. They themselves are not strong. It's the strength of the American system and political nature and the American way. They were standing on the shoulders of the country's strength. They themselves are not strong men. They are not strong people, and they showed it by bullying someone who was out of his element. And what you said, Karen, which I appreciate you breaking down regarding English is not his first language. So and I watched that, and that's why it frustrated me even further, because just as he was trying to answer questions and have a conversation, they would attack him again. And I thought, good Lord, this is one of the more disgusting things but here again, Karen, we didn't try to tell people. We told people. And now that we are here, I'm no longer, to the best of my ability, going to give anybody any space, period, on this damn conversation about Dems and messaging.
Nope.
Because Kamala Harris, during the debate, said that this exact thing would happen. Be damned the price of eggs. Hillary Clinton said the same thing would happen. She said the same thing would happen. And so here, all of the folks who voted, the 78 million, we would want you to be embarrassed, but we know your arrogance and your privilege. And frankly, like I said earlier, your elitism has allowed you to let this happen. So.
Right. Well, yeah, your privilege or failure to read history, and understand that. I mean, and, Richard, we've said it before. You and I were talking about this for a year, from a year before the election all the way through. And by the way, and you're right, if they wanted to get the information, they could have received the information. They didn't want to sit and watch the DNC. They didn't want to sit and listen to Democrats out there talking, even on social media. They were making videos They didn't want to listen to people warning about Project 2025 and the threat of the unitary executive theory and about Schedule F and the layoffs of thousands and thousands of civil servants. They didn't want to hear that. And, I mean, yeah, it wasn't the cost of eggs. It wasn't the economy. These people couldn't vote for a black woman and a strong black woman. They are so thin-skinned and limp-deed, and threatened, and they are always the victims, and they are so afraid. They're so afraid of everything. They're so easily manipulated. All you have to do is make them afraid, and then they run around and call us the snowflakes.
Yep.
And, give me a break.
We saw two snowflakes. We saw two snowflakes in the White House, and we saw a standard bearer. And the standard bearer was President Zelensky. The snowflakes are Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Karen, thank you, as always, for your contributions.
Thank you.
Thanks for fighting.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
And listen, to everybody out there from the Ukrainian community, Slava Ukraini. We stand with you.
We stand with you. Thanks, Karen.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, guys, one of the things I wanted to talk about real quickly before we go to break, we see your calls on hold. We're going to get to you after our guests in the 7 o'clock hour, and we're going to take this quick break. In case you guys didn't know this, Norway fuel giant refuses to fuel U.S. military ships until Trump is finished. Guys, if we have our ships, our submarines, our armament sitting in open waters because they can't get fueled properly or in a timely manner, do you all know what that means, what that potential risk is? I'm just going to go here. If we got a drifting submarine or a drifting ship that gets into waters that might happen to be ones that Putin says are my waters, our waters, and they were to capture that ship, that's an act of war. And if that were to happen, we would have to put our men and women in harm's way, because Trump would not be capable of negotiating to get that ship back. It's an aggressive act of war. And if you think for a minute that couldn't happen, you've lost your doggone mind. And that's why one of my concerns about when we have our vessels sitting in open waters, we're sitting ducks, y'all. And he doesn't have the capacity to negotiate if that were to happen. So stop lying to yourselves. It's time to vote out the Republicans who don't show up at the town halls and the ones that do, that talk down to people. Republicans, I'm reaching out to you. If you call yourself a person of faith, whatever that faith may be, one of the best things you can do for your soul is to acknowledge you made a mistake, apologize, and do something different. We all have that responsibility to ourselves and to those that we care about. So recognize you made a mistake, acknowledge that, and change course by voting out the members of the House of Representatives and your senators that are coming up in these upcoming elections so that we can change this. Because we've got men and women who've committed themselves to defend this country that could be in jeopardy when we have ships sitting like sitting ducks. That's how serious it is, y'all. Talk about World War III. And all because of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and their stupid behavior on Friday. We're going to go to a quick break, guys. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. In the midst of World War II, a group of Native American soldiers known as the Code Talkers became silent heroes. The U.S. military faced challenge of secure communications on the battlefield, and these men, primarily from the Navajo tribe, were enlisted to develop an unbreakable code. Using their native language, which had no written alphabet, they transmitted vital messages that were indecipherable to enemy forces. The code proved to be an essential asset, particularly in the Pacific Theater, where it helped the Allies win crucial battles. The Code Talkers' courage and ingenuity saved countless lives and turned the tide of the war. Yet, their contributions remained largely unknown until decades later. The legacy of the Code Talkers stands as a testament to the strength, resilience, and invaluable service of Native Americans during one of America's most devastating conflicts. This has been a WCPT Veteran Minute.
My USPS Ground Advantage package just left the warehouse. I get all the updates. Stay in the know with USPS Ground Advantage service. Visit USPS.com/in-the-know.
AP News. Good morning, I'm Ed Donahue. The winner for Best Picture at the Academy Awards is described as a Cinderella story set at a strip club.
Your parents are gonna kill you.
I love my husband.
You do not know this guy.
We are consenting adults.
Honora is the story of an exotic dancer who elopes and marries the son of a Russian oligarch. Best Director winner Sean Baker says he has been outspoken on his stance on sex workers.
It's our oldest profession, yet it has an incredible unfair stigma applied to it. And what I've been trying to do with my films is sort of chip away at that very unfair stigma.
8 of the 10 movies nominated for Best Picture came away with at least one award last night. Acting awards went to Madison, Adrian Brody, Kieran Culkin, and Zoe Saldana. Crews have been battling wildfires in the Carolinas.
South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster declared a state of emergency on Sunday in response to more than 175 wildfires. West of Myrtle Beach in the Carolina Woods area, helicopters dumped water as smoke filled the sky and deputies went door to door to warn residents. But by late Sunday afternoon, evacuees were allowed to return. According to the South Carolina Forestry Commission, a 1,600-acre wildfire was still burning uncontained in Horry County, but no structures have been lost or injuries reported. In North Carolina, the U.S. Forest Service says crews are working to get a handle on blazes burning in 4 forests across the state, one about 50 miles east of Charlotte. An evacuation order remains in effect for part of Polk County, North Carolina. I'm Jennifer King.
The Vatican says Pope Francis appears to be overcoming a setback in his recovery from pneumonia. This morning, the 88-year-old pontiff had coffee and breakfast and was undergoing therapy at Rome's Gemelli Hospital. Last night in Washington, there was a fundraiser by the figure skating community for the victims of the mid-air collision outside Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. 28 members of the figure skating community were among those killed. This is AP News. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says he could take government spending out of his agency's reports on the gross domestic product. The AP's Julie Walker has the story.
There are growing questions about whether the spending cuts pushed by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, could cause a recession. Speaking on Fox News, Lutnick said he would change GDP to make it transparent. The Commerce Secretary was echoing Musk's arguments made Friday on X that government spending does not create value for the economy. Doing so could potentially complicate or distort a fundamental measure of the U.S. economy's health. Government spending is traditionally included in the GDP because changes in taxes, spending, deficits, and regulations can impact the path of overall growth. I'm Julie Walker.
And I'm Ed Donahue, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. A few scattered areas of rain and sleet mixing here earlier today. Otherwise, we'll see a blend of clouds and sunshine developing, a high around 50 degrees. Winds out of the south at 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. For tonight, a chance for some rain showers late, cloudy, a low near 40. By Tuesday, a chance for rain, cloudy, high around 50. And Wednesday, a chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, high around 50. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 36.
This is Tony Moray. I'm an estate planning lawyer who drafts living trusts and wills. Since the election, I've been hearing from my clients, many of them fellow WCPT listeners. And we all wonder, how did this happen and what can we do? The how is, of course, very complicated. My thoughts as regard to what we can do is simple but important. We need to take extra care of those we love. Having an estate plan using either a living trust or will can provide comfort in uncertain times like these. When the progressive values we hold dear are under attack, I feel we must make sure that our personal lives are secure and then work out from there. I've been drafting estate plans for my clients for over 30 years, and I will use all of that experience to help you. Please call me at 847-996-0496. My website is moreylawoffice.com. That's Morey spelled M-O-R-E-E. Again, the phone is 847-996-0496. There is no cost or obligation for our initial discussion. I look forward to speaking with you.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Welcome back to Choose Views. Progressives, thank you for tuning in and being with us this morning. Follow us, of course, on our socials. And as always, we appreciate you calling and texting. Some great texts this morning. I want to give a quick shout out to the folks out in Arizona for sending us the information and comments that you send us. We appreciate that. And also a quick shout out to Diane and Paula for your commentary. I appreciate what you're saying. And yes, we know that voter suppression is happened and happening, which means that's one of the reasons why we have to fight even harder. So, all right, let's make our way real quickly over to excuse me, guys. I'm almost sneezed and coughed. We'll call that a snoff. How about that? Heartland Signal. That's where you want to go. Articles and posts from throughout the past week. Some great ones that are there. Heartland Signal on X. Our great Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota pushes back on Senator John Kennedy and saying that we've got to uphold our laws rather than letting the Supreme Court undermine our legitimacy and undermine the legitimacy of the court. And also make your way over there to see the clip that we have. Oklahoma Republican says prohibiting hitting disabled kids is socialism and violation of Scripture. That comes from Senator Shane Jett, Republican from Shawnee, Oklahoma area. What an idiot. I'll say it. What a violent idiot. Do you want to hit disabled children and say it's a violation of Scripture? No. Make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. Great clips there at Heartland Signal on X for you to review, so check those out. All right, I want to lean into this continued conversation around where we are with regard to this war in Ukraine. I know that also, I don't want to miss this, and it's in my notes, so I apologize for not speaking to it earlier, and that is that Israel is pulling back on support and aid that should be getting to the folks in Gaza. We didn't try to tell people. We told folks that this was going to happen. We told you this was going to happen. Those who protest voted and Jill Stein voted and all this other garbage because you didn't want Kamala Harris to be in office. See? It's frustrating to talk to people out of a position of care. We want to help. We want a better way for you, but you're too damn stubborn and arrogant and you won't listen, and privileged to some extent, regarding two areas in the world that we said this is going to happen, yet alone what's happening here in the United States of America. So there's a clip that I want you guys to hear that Devin and I put together, and it talks about what happens. What would happen? What were to happen if Russia were to win this war, if Ukraine were to bow a knee? So let's go with that one, Dev.
Russia wins this war and manages to extend control from this land bridge to Crimea to all of Ukraine. It will mark the first defeat of NATO. This would allow Russia to have a greater defensive position against the so-called NATO threat by controlling a significant part of the European plain opening. Additionally, Russia would control more than half of the Black Sea. If Russia wins, its next target will almost certainly be Moldova, and with the pretext of liberating Transnistria, Russia will annex Moldova, which would stand no chance against Russia. With control over Ukraine, Moldova, Kaliningrad, and Belarus on its side, Russia would likely put pressure on the Baltic states. By closing the Suwalki Gap, and with NATO being able to reinforce them only from Finland and Sweden, sadly, Russia would have a big chance of defeating them, and Europe will return to the 1989 Soviet Union borders. Since the Baltic states are NATO members, the alliance would have to react. So, what would NATO do?
So there's video with that clip as well, and I'm more than happy to send it to you. Just let me know. Send me an email at richard@wcpt820.com. and I'll send you that clip about if Russia wins this war and what it means. And it's what we've been telling people. This is coming from military experts across the globe. All right, let's go to George in Oak Park. Good morning, George, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard. You know, one of the things that greatly bothers me is Trump's smirk. What I see coming out of his face is he knows that he's got this. You know, any argument or discussion that you present to him, he wins it because he falls back on lies and he repeats the lies. And there's no way that you can get around it. He won't budge from that. You know, with Ukraine, you know, the Polacks and the Ukrainians going back easily to the 1600s were fighting each other. It was a bloody mess, tearing their eyes out against the captives. There was no justice. And yet now they've overcome this because now the Polacks and Ukraine have the common enemy, the Russians. The Russians weren't always there. They came in from somewhere from the east. They were known as the Rus.
Yeah.
But now this is what we got. And there's so much more. You know, one of the big lies Trump has is his allegiance to Putin. Putin really must have something on him.
I agree.
And
go ahead, George. Sorry.
And this is going to create the problem for the rest of the world. And if the Trump supporters can't get around to understanding this, you know, they can get all the hatred that they want from Trump and get fed on hatred. However, what's that going to do for the bellies of their children and grandchildren?
Yep. That's a good point. Good points across the board. The Trump lies, George, you're right about that. And the visual that popped into my head when you said that is, you know, somebody yelling at him louder than he tries to yell. But what they do is they put people in a situation like this with President Zelensky, where they're basically they're bullying. I mean, I try to fancy it up with words, but that's what they did. And the lies that Trump tells himself and then repeats to the public are the ones that people continue to believe. And we have I just have to say it this way, George, we have an uninformed electorate. There's others that might say that we have a stupid electorate. And sometimes I might go there myself. But today I'm going to say we have a very uninformed, unwilling to learn, biased electorate that doesn't want to hear truth because they have their head stuck in the sand. So your point is well taken.
Richard, one more thing quickly. Henryk Sienkiewicz, author, a Polish author from the late 1800s, when he wrote his trilogy, History of Poland's Wars, they were involved in 3 wars in the 1600s, one of which was against the Ukraine, which was called the Helmitsky Rebellion, because then Ukraine was fighting just for equal footing, be able to see each other eye to eye.
Yeah.
And one of the inspirations for that author was his travels of the United States. He saw the landscape, the huge landscape of this country, and he tried to implement some of that scenery into his book about the Polish Wars.
Yeah.
He just paint the scenario. And so, again, it goes back to this country. What are we going to do about it?
Yeah, I'm with you in that space in terms of what are we going to do. One, the thing that's simple to say, believe it or not, is we have to fight and we have to pull our heads out of the sand. We have to keep letting people know that if you don't pull your heads out of the sand, you're willfully being ignorant and letting the country go to the trash can. Hey, George, I gotta throw something that you said earlier that I didn't want to interrupt you, but I want to come back and kind of, for further commentary and communication with people, I would recommend that when you're speaking of folks of a particular ethnicity, try not to use a word that might be viewed as offensive. And earlier I did hear you use the word Polak. And I've got, Polish brothers and sisters in my family indirectly. So try to use Poles or the Polish, but Polacks is kind of viewed by many people as a little bit derogatory. So just be mindful of that, okay?
in the Polish language, actually, we are known. It's a familiar term.
But here's the thing, George. When people hear it, that don't do the thing that we often can do, is justify something that may be offensive to somebody else. When people hear that, they hear it the way that is offensive. So I'm just saying, as a fellow progressive, as a fellow person of color and all that, we all have to be mindful of how we say certain things so that people don't take it the wrong way. That's all I'm saying. I just don't want somebody to...
All right, Richard, that is correct. I agree.
That's all I'm trying to do, man. I'm not getting on you. I'm just saying I don't want you to be in a crowd of people that don't get that and take it offensively. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand. Okay. Thank you for the correction.
All right, George. Thanks for the call and the contribution. Have a great day, my man.
Have a good afternoon.
All right. I'm always mindful of things like that. And what I mean when I say mindful is I look at that and say, George is out with some folks and he said that, and there's somebody that's there and hears it. They might hear it the wrong way. So, George, I just don't want somebody to jump in your business and say something to you, even though you understand some of the history of the language. So there you go, guys. That's just me being me. So hopefully nobody has a problem with that. I'm going to take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views. We'll be right back and get more of your calls.
You keep putting off that much-needed dental work. You know, that back molar that zings whenever you drink something cold, or that old loose crown that migrates up and down like a yo-yo every time you eat. This is Dr. Anna Pellick from Total Dentistry and Palatine, and procrastination keeps me very busy. A simple filling becomes a root canal, or that chipped tooth breaks again and now it becomes a bridge or an implant. Time is the enemy, and dental problems don't get better on their own. So if you procrastinate because of anxiety, we have solutions. If you procrastinate because of cost, we work with insurance plans and have easy payment options. And if you procrastinate because you're too busy, we have early 6 a.m. appointments, late evening, and Saturday appointments, and even one-day treatment. So now that I've eliminated most excuses for not seeing us, stop procrastinating and join the many who tell us, why did I ever wait so long? So give us a call at 847-358-2477 or visit us at totaldentistry.org. Total Dentistry, a general dental practice like no other.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Wow, you guys are phenomenal, and I appreciate your calls. I appreciate your text messages, and sometimes I try to get to the words as quickly as I can, and so hopefully you guys were with me on that. I did do my best at correcting George, but correcting him in a way that's to move forward. And most certainly we want to be respectful of all of our communities when it comes to language and what we say. So no denigration of anybody, just when we say something and we get help, I look at it to clean up our language or how we reference something. I think that's what makes us, I almost said better. That's what makes us striving to be better as progressive liberal Democrats, is that when something like that happens, we have enough strength in our system to say, okay, yeah, we should speak a little bit differently. So there you go, guys. Let's go to Earl in Hyde Park real quickly. Good morning, Earl, and welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, Richard, for taking my call. And Corporate George, I made that mistake once in a crowd where I used a word that I was familiar with using, but I had missed the memo that it was now considered offensive. And somebody took offense to me referring in a derogatory way to an ethnic group that I had in my heart no desire to offend.
Yeah.
So the choice of words does matter, and I didn't mean to hurt the person's feelings, but like I said, I wasn't aware at the time that I was using.
Well, here's the thing.
A term that was offensive.
Here's the thing, Earl. This is where we are different. We acknowledge we have to have enough courage and open-mindedness to go, yeah, that wasn't cool, and say, first of all, apologize, when someone that cares about you is trying to correct and help you move forward, but not trying to denigrate you for that slip up. And then we all work forward to do better. And listen, in the Chicago metropolitan area, from all measure, this is one of the largest, if not the largest, Polish populations in North America outside of the country of Poland, which is one of the reasons why, and I want to merge this together, why so many people who are supporting our efforts in Ukraine understand the global importance of us standing strong, because we know, and we have so many Polish brothers and sisters here in the Chicago metropolitan area. So, we all make the mistakes of saying things the wrong way. The strong person stops and says, hey, wait a minute. I shouldn't have said it that way. I apologize. Let me correct my behavior. The obstinate, arrogant person says, nah, I'm going to justify my behavior because what I felt I was okay to do. No, I can't roll with that person. So I heard it. I had to say something about it. I've had a number of people text me in this short window of time that didn't like it. So that's not an indictment of George. Let me be careful there. That is not an indictment of George. It's our opportunity to say, okay, let's all do better. And I'll leave it there. What you got, Earl?
Oh, okay, that was great. Let me relate a personal experience to what you were speaking to earlier. And what I'm going to do is try to carve out the Republican Party a little bit more distinctive than you did. I happen to be a godchild to a mixed-race child. And the mother is white and the father's black. And the family has been warm, open, and very respectful of me and my relationship with my godchild, and has had me in the family's home and treated me with respect, and I really do feel with love. And so they happen, unfortunately, to be a split family where there are Trumpites who have bought into the fallacy of that misnomer and ideology of misinformation and lies, even though they are in a group of people that admit have racist tendencies, superiority tendencies toward people of color, and it's difficult when people only listen to a stove-piped information stream. They feel that they trust the people that they are receiving their information from, and so therefore they regurgitate it and they base their lives on it. And unfortunately, what I'm trying to say is that the group of people that are supporters of Trump, some of them are just plain ignorant. And I'm not saying that in the negative. I'm saying that they just don't know better.
Yeah. Well, Earl, one of the things that's
what I was trying to say. Yeah.
No. Let me go back to something that I said earlier. When I was talking about the people who wanted that warm bowl of oatmeal with the honey just right and properly, spread on top of their oatmeal and presented to them with a nice warm spoon. When I said that was in its own way a form of elitism, I meant it because a lot of people were so locked into, like you just said, a way of believing, a way of thinking, hearing, and seeing, that they were too privileged, too important, too, frankly, elite to hear things other than what they wanted to hear in their own little box. And because of that, we now have people who are rinsing, and repeating the same garbage to the point that you made earlier. So I hear you loud and clear. I most definitely do and appreciate that. We got to bounce because I've got some folks I got to get on.
Okay, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks, Earl, for your comments, and have a good day. Thank you, man. All right, let's see who we can squeeze in before we hit the bottom of the hour. Let's try to get to Dave in San Francisco real quickly. Hey, Dave, good morning and welcome to Choose Views.
Oh, morning, Richard. You know, right at the turn of the year, Donald Trump came up with this really stupid idea that he was going to take the gold of America and buy Bitcoin with it.
Yep.
And I probably called 25 or 30 stations and, alerted people, hey, this is looming. And only one station in all of the ones that I've called thought it might be a good idea. But all the rest pretty clearly said, no, that's not just stupid, but it's somewhere in between treason and criminal. Well, sure enough, just the other day, Trump has announced the strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Yep.
And so he wants to take America's gold and send it over to some Ponzi scheme, fly-by-night, electronic, computer-generated value, and then take the entire value of America, and he claims that by doing that he can pay off the national debt. Well, yeah, I've seen, I'm old enough to have seen those people on the street corner that have 3 walnuts and a pea, and they play the old find the pea shell game. Yeah. And what do you bet that he would then he'd put it in Bitcoin, and then he'd put it over in Melania money, and then he'd put it in Elon Musk's money, and then he'd do the shell game with the crypto, and then whoops, it's all gone.
Yep.
So the value of America would be gone just by having this guy pulling the fly-by-night thing.
Yeah.
Well,
sorry, go ahead, Dave. I apologize.
Well, I was just going to say, we've got the Pope has an opportunity right now. I don't know if you remember when you play tag, you do the last tag and then the whole thing's over.
Yeah.
Well, there's an old law of Moses called Jubilee. And it had to do with freeing the slaves, and it had to do with fake money, that you can cancel the debts of the world by declaring Jubilee. And I would think that if Elon Musk is going to get access to all of our Social Security data, all of our bank information, all of our identity information, a Jubilee sounds pretty darn smart about now.
Yeah. Well, Dave, and thank you for your commentary and your contribution as always. A lot of people just are so enamored, so frankly biased, racist, sexist, nationalistic, and privileged that all they could see, and I just have to call it as it is, guys, is they wanted to see this person in the White House because they did not want to see anything other. And even in the space of Joe Biden, they didn't want to see him in the White House because that represented the fact that there was a black woman and other people of color, other strong women, LGBTQ Americans, and so many others that were going to be there to run our country and move us forward. These are a bunch of weak A people that would rather see the country get burned to shreds than to see people progress and move forward at their own expense. It's that simple. We folks on the left sometimes overcomplicate this stuff. And even when it comes to your conversation about crypto, you're spot on, man. That's what they want to do. Burn it down. We got all the treasure over here. Now you got to beg us to get some of it. It's not rocket science. So, Dave, thank you as always, my man. Appreciate you. Stay safe out in San Francisco, and have a good rest of the week. Thanks, David.
Will do. Thanks.
All right, man. Dave's great. He is a thoughtful person and sends me some really wonderful emails. So thank you, David. Let's go to a quick break. I know we have our guest hopefully coming with us in the 7:30 hour. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
This is a WCPT moment in labor. On March 25th, 1911, in Manhattan, a fire at the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory killed 146 workers, who were mostly women. The victims of the fire were unable to leave the burning high-rise building due to the exits being locked and were forced to leap to their deaths from the 8th, 9th, and 10th floors. Locking doors was a common practice to reduce theft and unauthorized breaks at workplaces. As a result of the fire, the New York State Legislature formed the Factory Investigating Commission, whose findings led to 38 new laws regulating labor. Some of the new laws mandated better egress, the installation of better alarm and sprinkler systems, and increased availability of fire extinguishers. Coincidentally, the American Society of Safety Professionals was formed, which now manages, researches, and consults occupational safety and health across 75 countries. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We are working for your rights.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. A few scattered areas of rain and sleet mixing here earlier today. Otherwise, we'll see a blend of clouds and sunshine developing, a high around 50 degrees. Winds out of the south at 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. For tonight, a chance for some rain showers late, cloudy, low near 40. By Tuesday, a chance for rain, cloudy, high around 50. And Wednesday, a chance for showers and thunderstorms, cloudy, high around 50. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 36.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views. Great to be with you this morning, as always. And I know that a lot of you have been commenting on pretty much everything. And we can start with the fact that we had such a strong response to the clips we played earlier with regard to this terrible meeting on Friday and in the White House. And what I found interesting is that Vance was saying, don't come into our Oval Office and be nasty and not thank us, and his vitriol and his little privileged commentary. What I found interesting is that you're the host. You raised the level of decorum. And to say that it was President Zelensky who showed his behind, when in fact you're the host and you're going to act like that, that to me showed just that these are two, it didn't show me, I've known this. It further showed that these are two just disgusting individuals that unfortunately 78 million people in America said we're going to vote for. So I'm no longer accepting from any person on the planet, period, that this was about messaging and we got that wrong. We didn't get it wrong. Mainstream media did a poor job. They did a poor job during the entire administration. We can always talk about the imperfections of what the administration did or did not do, the previous administration. But a lot of people just put their heads in the sand. And I know as a black man in America, I can look at all the polls and the data. A lot of people just were willfully, they didn't, and they couldn't admit this. I mean, how much better of a bowl of oatmeal do we need to serve people for them to go, yeah, I can't vote for that dude and that garbage. But here we are. So, all right, guys, this morning we are fortunate to have one of the strategists that's out there, but also a dude that's got some common sense, and he knows a little bit about what's going on in the world and what's happening in our political environment. And with us is going to be with us every other week for a while. He's been with us before. His name is Mike Nellis. Mike, good morning and welcome to Choose Views, a pioneering social impact entrepreneur, but more importantly, a guy that's got this thumb on the pulse when it comes to advising and working with political candidates. So, Mike, welcome back to Choose Views. Glad you could be with us this morning.
Glad to be here. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I don't know if you heard this earlier. My wife and I went to D.C. over the weekend. We definitely participated in the economic blackout. We did it, all of our traveling and getting around. We took our own little snacks on Friday so we wouldn't have to spend any money. And we did our best to participate in the process. This is something that's not new to me. I've done this and been down this path before as someone that grew up in the 60s and was part of protests as a kid and protests and boycotts that I watched my parents. So this wasn't difficult for me to do. But the beauty of it was being in the nation's capital and seeing all the beauty of our nation's capital. And as I said earlier in the show, don't let that be a space that we yield right now, given the importance of our history there. So I'm good, but I hope you're doing well as well.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. We participated in the boycott on Friday as well. We didn't buy anything. My wife came close. She almost bought some yarn from Michael's until I reminded her. It was pretty funny. And but I ended up. I was trying to cook one of my son's favorite dishes, and I didn't have some of the right ingredients. I really wanted to go to Whole Foods, but I said I was going to do it, and I thought it was worth doing.
Yeah, without a doubt. And there's many people. I've got a couple of folks that we'll be sharing information with later this week on and extending it and making it broader in a larger window of time. And me, with my financial background, I'm going to put together some things from a numerical basis and how this can really have an impact if people understand it. So I'll be putting that together in the next week or so. But Mike, take a moment and just remind our listeners, reintroduce yourself. I hate to over-introduce someone because I'm talkative, so I'd rather have you take a moment and just reintroduce yourself to our audience.
Well, you're a radio host. I hope you're talkative. It would be problematic if you weren't. But yeah, for those that don't know me, I've got 2 decades working in Democratic politics. I'm a digital advertiser and communicator and online fundraiser by background. I'm a former senior advisor to Kamala Harris. I'm a current senior advisor to Senator Adam Schiff in California. He's actually my oldest client. Been with him for 10 years, and I run a digital marketing company. And social impact causes, and a lot of big name Democrats like Gretchen Whitmer and Lauren Underwood here in the Chicagoland area, and a whole bunch of others. And I've been doing this for what feels like a lifetime. Basically, it's a lifetime at this point.
Yeah, well, and that's good because you have the experience and you kind of know the things that a lot of when I say kind of know, you know things or see things that others may not because of what you've been doing, just like I do in my space. But I want to get right to it with the amount of time we have this morning. And like I said, Mike's going to be with us every couple of Mondays to talk about what he's seen and what he sees as a way forward and how we can right the ship, if you want to put it in that space. But let's get right out of the gate and let's talk about your observations of what happened last Friday in the Oval Office.
Yeah, well, let's say the obvious part first. Trump and Vance are completely classless and do not have America's best interest at heart, let alone, the Western world's best interest at heart, and I think that's worth noting. But it was a total setup. I watched all 50 minutes of it. If you look at the first 40 minutes, it's pretty tame. And then, Vance decided to come in and be a jerk, and Zelensky had enough. And the couple things I'll flag here is, Trump and Vance and Tulsi Gabbard was on TV this weekend, and she's saying, oh, Ukraine doesn't want peace. They're not interested in peace. Well, let's be clear what they mean when they say peace. They're talking about surrender. Like, Ukraine is not willing to surrender itself to Russia, which is what, these guys in the White House want. So Zelensky's here defending his country. And then the second thing is the audacity of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance to ask for an apology for an incident that they created, A. But B, the number of times that Donald Trump has said horrible things and refused to apologize. I would be here all day if I started listing them, but he attacked Gold Star families, he's attacked veterans, he attacked John McCain for being a prisoner of war, he's attacked basically everybody in the country and never apologized once. So the audacity of that to me is unbelievable. And then third, I think Zelensky has played this pretty smart in the last couple of days. He understands his audience is probably not in the White House anymore because the White House has aligned itself with other interests. His audience is the rest of the Western world, and what he was able to do after the incident on Friday is unite every other major democracy on the planet in alignment with Ukraine. Nobody's breaking, and that's what he needs if he's going to continue to hold the line in Ukraine against Russia, is to keep most of Europe together, to keep Canada, to keep Mexico, et cetera. And that's what he's done. And I think that was smart. It was extremely smart, and I wrote down the word that you came right out of the gate and said, and I apologize to you for taking the gloves off. It was classless. It was all the things that we say as a country that we are not. It was all of those things in a matter of a few minutes that showed the. And here's the question that I would have for you before I go down my tirade on this, Mike. How does this, or do you think it does, and if it does, how will it move the needle here domestically when it comes to voters? And I'm going to talk about it in two different groups of voters. Those that were sort of in the middle that voted for Trump, those that voted for Trump willfully and without any reservation. And then the third group would be the people that didn't vote at all. So 3 groups. How does something like this, in your experience and observation, how do you think it impacts them? So it's unclear, but at least from the last election, like Ukraine was not a top of mind issue, and economics is always going to trump everything, right? And the Trump campaign was smart in framing Ukraine as why are we sending our money somewhere else when we've got problems at home, right? Which is classic isolationism talk. You go back and find the same people arguing that when we were at war with Japan and Germany in World War II, right? And so I don't know that it's going to move the needle a ton, but I do think it's the kind of thing that it's going to awaken a lot of people who were, overwhelmed, sad, tired after the presidential election and looking for a reason to get back in. They need something that lights them back. And I think especially for a lot of the folks who were engaged in the campaign on the Harris side, on the Democratic side last year, this is the type of thing that does that because I think they understand it. One challenge we have, and not to sit here and blame Joe Biden for everything, but the Biden administration did not do a good job of framing why our involvement in Ukraine is so important. And I think Democrats are still struggling with that. We need to do a better job of communicating why it's in our best interest to do that, because otherwise it gives Trump a clear opening. I don't know that this will move a ton of voters. It'll move his approval rating. What's going to move his approval rating, what's going to turn people against him, is the fact that he's doing absolutely nothing on the economy after promising on day one to make housing more affordable, to make groceries more affordable. He hasn't done anything in however many days it's been, 50 days. That's going to hurt him a lot more. But this stuff embarrasses people, and people don't like chaos. They don't like this type of American leadership, and we saw that in Trump's first term. So I think over time it's like death by 1,000 cuts. The more that he does stuff like this, the more that you'll kind of erode his support on that.
Got it. So not necessarily a needle mover when it comes to Ukraine. And granted, the previous administration could have done a different job, a better job of making the connection to maybe making an economic connection. I guess I could put it that way with my brain, is making Ukraine an economic connected item, and how our money going there and our resources going there, let me put it that way, was really about making sure that we protect our backside. We keep as I use the phrase I use, walk out the front door, leave the back door open. This allows us to close the back door. That may have been, I would agree with you. I mean, that's just, part of what I think you and I agree on is we have to be willing to look at what we didn't do. And I use the sports analogies all the time. Okay, why didn't we win? Or what could we have done better in winning? And that a grown person has to do that if they want to go forward. Let me ask you about something else, man. That's, I don't know, the town halls this last 2 weeks. Yeah. I mean, chime in on that in terms of what you're seeing. I've said this. I'll tell you what I've said in case you haven't heard, and then you can give me give folks some feedback. I've said this is an opportunity from a messaging standpoint, to be fair and honest, or a space standpoint, to go into the backyards, talk about leaving the back door open, go into the backyards of the Republicans that either won't show up for town halls or are going and being dismissive to the people that are in attendance, that are their constituents. And I look at it as an opportunity to go in and say, let's start stealing some of their candy. Am I crazy? Yep. What are your thoughts about the town halls?
No, I don't think you're crazy at all. So I love what I'm seeing out of the town halls right now. And I remember one of my very first election cycles was 2010, which was the Tea Party year. And I remember everybody who was older and smarter than me, or at least I thought they were smarter than me at the time, was saying, well, these are just Republican operatives. The Koch brothers are paying for people to come out, blah, blah, blah. And then turns out, yeah, there was a lot of AstroTurf, but a lot of people were really upset at the Obama administration, and we got our butts handed to us in the 2010 midterm. This is the same thing that's happening right now, and it's hilarious to me to see Speaker Johnson on TV claiming they're all paid actors when they're not. Yeah. And if you saw this weekend, Senator Roger Marshall from Kansas was asked from a constituent. The constituent literally says, "I'm not a Democrat. I don't vote for Democrats, but I'm very worried about what's happening to veterans right now. There's been 6,000 veterans that have been laid off by the Trump administration. What are you doing about it?" And Roger Marshall literally goes, "Well, that's all the time we have. I have another event and I have to leave," and just walked out and left. That's not a good sign for the Republicans. So they're running scared. House leadership told their members to stop scheduling town halls. And then you have Bernie Sanders is traveling the country and hosting events in Republican areas, which is smart. But you also have moderate Democrats who are doing it too. I saw Tom Swayze from New York, who's about as opposite of a Democrat as you can get from Bernie Sanders because he's much more in the moderate kind of blue dog lane. He was doing the same thing this weekend in New York. So I think we should get aggressive and try to do this. It's a tough balancing act between inserting ourselves into a conversation and also just sort of allowing Republicans to hang themselves a little bit because this is such a bad look for them. But I think there's a balance where we can kind of get engaged. And ultimately what we're going to need to do is cast the biggest, widest net in this election and recruit as many quality candidates as we can to try to compete all across the map and just stretch the Republicans, because people are mad from New York to California, everywhere in between. They're mad in Texas and Oklahoma. I think there's a lot of opportunity out there for us to win people back.
And thank you for that, Mike. I mean, I'm going to go back to something before about the communication in terms of Ukraine and what could have been said a certain way. I don't necessarily say differently, but one of the things that was missed, and I keep coming back to this, I do believe that the Biden administration made the connection or made the statements, and it's we got let's go to the videotape of the importance of Ukraine and how America's participation was. What I think happened is that a lot of times Americans don't give a damn, and the message it falls on deaf ears. Because let's be honest, Mike, we have a lot of people in this country who just don't give a damn about certain things, and we can talk about it all day long, but their privilege, their arrogance, their box that they live in makes it so that they can kind of pull the covers over and go, I don't care about that. So yeah, I hear it, but I don't really feel it. I don't really take it on. And that's something that is part of our political and sort of part of our media messaging. And as much as we have seen our politicians try to talk about things, there are folks that just don't want to hear it. And that's part of our struggle. And but at the same time, and I want to bring this back to you regarding these town halls, do you think there's a strategy in there, somewhere in there, to go to these places and let folks know your congressman or senator is walking out on you? I'm here, and saying words literally like that. I'm here. We're here. They walked out on you. I think it's a simple message that may resonate with some of those people that are in the middle of the road. No?
I think it has a lot of potential, and I'm generally somebody who thinks like showing up is half the battle of leadership, and I don't think Democrats have historically done a good job showing up in places where we're not necessarily welcome. Even this weekend, there's a huge debate inside the party. Like Simone Sanders on MSNBC this weekend was saying that Democrats need to boycott the State of the Union speech on Tuesday. I actually think that's wrong. I think Democrats need to show up and find creative ways to protest, and they need to cast a wide net and go on social media, local media, national media, and hit these Republicans and hit Trump for what they're doing and explain it to people. And we have to stop not engaging in the fight. So yes, I agree with that. The challenge for people who don't vote, and there's sort of maybe three categories of people of how I would put this together, is one, there's frankly a lot of disengaged people where they've turned being disengaged into an art form, right? Like, I don't vote, I don't care about any of that, blah, blah, blah. Like, my life doesn't change. And then, two, there's people that are actually disenfranchised. And I think we forget about that in these conversations, but there are a lot of people where they would vote if they could, but they can't because they're at work all day, or they can't because there's laws in their state that make it hard for them to vote. And then three, I think there's a lot of people that the system and the Democratic and the Republican Party have let down repeatedly, and we haven't given them a reason to vote. And I think that's actually the largest group of people. Is that there are a lot of people in this country who are like, nothing ever changes in my life. Things are hard and difficult with Republicans. They're hard and difficult with Democrats. I'm just trying to survive. I'm going to focus on, my little unit of people. And nobody has stepped forward and given them a compelling reason to vote outside of like Obama, who brought out a lot of new people. And then to a certain degree, like Obama promised a lot of hope and change that then didn't materialize for a lot of reasons. But there's a lot of people who have lingering, like, I got in on that and I didn't get what I thought I was going to get. And then the same is sort of happening with Trump right now, where Trump brought out a lot of people who were disengaged and never had a reason to vote, and they're particularly like in rural areas, and he's not delivering for them what he promised to deliver. So I think they're going to end up feeling disenfranchised, and they're not going to get involved in the system once Trump is gone. And that's a huge problem because both parties need to be bringing in new people, need to be creating a vibrant democracy. And I don't think either party is doing a good job of that right now.
And new people isn't defined by young people. Let me be clear. I'm going to make that statement. Not that you are making it, Mike, but new people are people who have been disengaged, disenfranchised, suppressed, frankly, to talk about what, is the other elephant in the room. I think, and I'm not a strategist, but I pay attention to how people don't do things as much as why they do something. And when you talk about engagement or the lack of work that's been done by the Democrats to get people engaged, here's my take on this. And I think it's important that we all ask ourselves this question. if the Republicans are showing signs right now that there's a crack in the armor in terms of their engagement with their constituents that voted them in, I think it would be a missed opportunity for Democrats to so going back to your point about spreading a wide net. In that net are the people that are not engaged. In that net are the people who are engaged, but, less than maybe we would want them to be. But also in that net has got to be the Republicans who are disappointed now very quickly in the promise and the non-delivery from the Trump administration. If we leave those people out, I think in that net spreading, we are missing a huge opportunity because a lot of those people, to your point, Mike, are probably Obama voters that vote, folks that voted for President Obama first and second term and wanted something a little bit different. Trump was interesting. And if those people are now the ones that are the disappointed ones that you spoke about, I think we have to include them in the net. True?
Yeah, no, I think we have to. And I think some of the challenge I'm finding in Democratic circles is how mad people are at Trump voters without sort of trying to empathize with, what they're going through and why they made the decision that they did. But there are a lot of voters out there where if you look at their voting record, they were Obama in 08, Obama in 12, Trump, or Trump, Biden, Trump, right? And that's a confusing thing to kind of look at when you have some consistency in, your political beliefs like you and I do. But for most people, they're just trying to survive. So the idea of the actual Democratic Party and Republican Party's platform really doesn't matter. It gets superseded by who's going to make it easier for me to buy a house and retire with dignity, right? And so, or at least is going to try to break and change a system that I think is broken. I do think we have to reach out to Republicans. We have to reach out to Trump voters. We need to, and it shouldn't be an I told you so. I get so frustrated when I see liberals online who are like, haha, I told you this was going to happen, or haha, that person lost their job even though they voted for Trump, or let me go find a social post from 6 months ago where they said something bad about Kamala. I hate stuff like that because there are people who got fooled. There are people who legitimately are struggling to figure out what the right thing to do is. And there's this Washington Post article from last week where this woman who worked in the federal government voted for Trump, lost her job, and she basically said, I wasn't voting for Trump because I love the guy, but I thought, my groceries are really high, my car payment is so high, I'm trying to have a kid right now, and IVF is, more than 10% of my paycheck right now, and Trump promised to make IVF free, and I thought I'd take a go at it, and I was clearly wrong. And I admire people who will come out and say, I was wrong. I got tricked. I believed in something that I shouldn't have. And we're going to need a lot of people to say that over the next 4 years to get back to a better spot. And then what we're going to have to do is embrace them and say, I'm sorry that happened to you. We're still fighting for you, even if you didn't vote for us, because they're still our brothers. They're still our sisters. I
agree with that. And what I'll add to that, Mike, is they've got, this is my standard. This is how I see it. And I think a lot of people would agree with both of us and what we're saying. They got fooled, whether it was willful or some ignorance in there. Frankly, smart people should know better, but we know where we are. They got fooled. They have to be willing to do a couple of things. One of them is to acknowledge that they got fooled, because then we know that there's something that was learned there. But the other thing they're going to have to be willing to do, yes, Democrats are going to have an open hand outreach to say, come with us, we got you. They're also going to have to be willing to say, not only did I get fooled, and not only am I saying I got fooled, but let me do something to make that right. I think there's a lot of people that are going to say they got fooled and they won't get involved. But if they do get involved and we welcome them, they got to be willing to put some work in. And the work is to help bring other people into the mix that got fooled. Otherwise, they're just once again, they're looking for their needs to be served rather than the greater good. And I think that's where a lot of folks are. That's one of the reasons. And the reason I'm saying it this way is I believe that's one of the reasons, not to justify it, but that a lot of people, and hear this clearly, are saying, we tried to tell you, you didn't listen. So now, if you're going to be part of this fix, you got to listen this time. Because it's also offensive to the people on the other side who said, we tried to tell you. You know what I mean? So there's two thoughts to that. We tried to tell you. We did tell you. And you said we were crazy. Now you want to be part of our party. Okay, great. You got to listen this time, other than just say I was wrong. I don't know.
But we've also got to create we've also got to create the conditions for people to feel comfortable to say, I was wrong and I need help navigating it and I don't know what the next step is. And it's going to be a fine line because you're right. Like, people are going to have to own up to the fact that they messed up. And it is hurtful to folks on our side, particularly folks from communities that, are more likely to be targeted than me, a white dude on this call, right? And I'm very aware of the privilege that I have in giving the advice that I'm giving. But we still have to create that conditioning. And the way that I framed it to somebody over the weekend, because I got somebody in my mentions on Twitter that was like, sometimes you got to let a little kid touch the stove. And I go, yeah, sometimes you got to let a little kid touch the stove. But you know what you don't do? You don't scream at them afterwards. You don't make them feel bad about it. Like, you try to help them and learn them and coach them up. And should we have to treat our fellow citizens like that? Maybe not. But I think in this instance, if we want to build a winning coalition that can take back the White House and take back the Senate and take back the House and just turn down the temperature on the crazy in this country, because there's a lot of crazy that's happening that we need to turn the temperature down on. It's going to require us to make some sacrifices and have to have some tough conversations that, neither of us want to have.
I think that what will go along with that nicely is, okay, we got you, and then ask the question, are you willing to, and then fill in the blanks. We got you. We know you messed up. We know that you touched the stove. Now, are you willing to, and fill in the blanks, because that will then allow them to have something to do or to be a part of. I think a lot of times the engagement there needs to be an end or an outcome, like, okay, I see that if I'm engaged in a part of this, it's going to bring me X, Y, and Z. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Mike Nellis,
y'all. I think that's 100% right.
Mike's going to be with us every week or two to talk about this, and he and I are going to try to fix this thing. And we mean that seriously. I say that with a little bit of with humor in my voice, but Mike and I are dead on serious about fixing this. And Mike, I appreciate you being with us this morning. I know you got a busy week in front of you. We'll talk in 2 weeks, and appreciate you sitting in for a little bit this morning.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Mike, be well. All right, guys, as we wrap up today's show, great to be with you all. I appreciate you sitting in, your text, your phone calls. Wow. What a morning. It's 1st of March, 2023, but we're going to get this thing done, y'all. As I say always, take a deep breath, make your life count, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Are you tired of talking to yourself? We can get you an audience on the radio. You can produce and host your own radio show on one of our 2 stations. Please call 773-792.
Hi, this is Dr. Jason Bassell. As it is I who voice these ads, it is I who get all the fame and glory. I can't even walk down the street without people recognizing me as that guy from Chicago Community Acupuncture and asking for my autograph.
Literally, that never happened.
Anyway, I want to tell you about my wonderful associates. These are experienced professionals who share my commitment to providing excellent and affordable care. We have Diane, a career Air Force veteran who earned her doctorate in Chinese medicine. Both Jay and He-Jay earned their medical degrees in China and the U.S. And we have James, who recently returned home to Chicago after practicing in Portland for years. I am so proud to have these excellent providers keeping Chicago Community Acupuncture open 7 days a week. How can people schedule, girls?
Well, they can go to chicomaco.com